Okay. You already saw, like, so let's have this conversation. I gained weight and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about all the things that were going on, what led to this point, and we're sitting here on my bed because it is too cold on the floor. So we're up here on the bed. But I want to have this conversation because it's necessary, and the enemy would want me to not share and not have this out of shame, out of embarrassment, out of guilt, out of all the things. And so for that reason, I'm going to share because it's going to be a part of my freedom and is, and I believe yours as well. And I'll get into that. But I wanted to talk about this, and my dog's here, so sorry if you hear him in the background. So, one of the hardest things about being a weight loss coach while on a weight loss journey is that I'm a weight loss coach on a weight loss journey. Like, I'm still in process with the Lord too. And that has been this like struggle, this challenge for me from like early on. And I think it really became a challenge when I started sharing about, giving your weight loss journey over to the Lord. He will lead you, He will get you out, all those things. And this is all gonna make sense in a minute. But let me just back up and start from the beginning. So in the beginning, when I first came on, and one of the things I want to say too is that me sharing I gain weight isn't really what I'm worried about. It's not that, because when I started this, I started this channel to share my weight loss journey. And because I knew it was something that would help hold me accountable. And so I wasn't coaching, I wasn't trying to help people or anything. I was just sharing my journey and hoping that through that journey, it was going to encourage other people. And when I started the journey, at the same time I started the journey, I had really started working on and deepening my relationship with the Lord. Like, I had been going to church and things, but really having this personal relationship with Him when I started the journey. But, I was just sharing my journey, sharing the ups and downs. So when I gained weight, I would share that as well. And through that, because I know I have this gift of teaching, because I love sharing with others, even in that, I would still share like little tips and things that I had learned. But it was still just me sharing my journey. And if you wanted to follow, if you wanted the encouragement, then, fine, that was great. And then I started stepping into this role. Like, through that, the Lord birthed this business, right? Where now I started helping other people on their journey as well. And at first, I was just a health coach and a weight loss coach, just like the rest of the world. I was sharing what, helped me lose weight. At the time when I started, I was down 50 pounds, I think, maybe 60. I gotten up to 80 pounds if you watched my story, and I shared that. But I think at the time that I started coaching, I was down 50 pounds, but just doing it the world's way. And so I, just giving like health tips and nutrition tips because I was a certified nutrition coach and things like that. Um, and I was just going throughout this journey. And as I started working on my relationship with the Lord and really taking time to seek Him each year about, Lord, what do you want me to do? That's when He had me cross over into helping Christian women specifically and helping them to allow Holy Spirit to lead them in this journey. And so I started doing a little bit of that in the beginning, but really at the end of 2022, like I felt a little bit more to step more into it. And I still wasn't fully just coaching Christian women or anything. But it wasn't until like the end of 2023 when he gave me Whole and Holy Girls Club. And then 2024 is when I fully just was helping Christian women in this way. But in January 2023, that's when he was like, it's time to write the book. And at that point, I was down 80 pounds. I started writing the book. And even in the book, I put like, you know, like at this point, I lost 90 because I knew, like, based on the rate, like I was losing weight, that I should be about 90 pounds down by the time the book published. And I had to go back in and edit it and put 80 because my weight loss stopped. And I wasn't really doing anything differently. And I wrote the book, published it. I was still going on the journey, doing the things with the Lord, helping women, talking to them, starting to post a little bit more Christian content. And that whole year, like, I didn't lose any weight. And I was just, I wasn't gaining. It was just like I was just staying the same. And I realized, like, as I was sitting with the Lord, there was this spiritual attack going on. And by the way, that's not what this video is about. This is about me. But I'm just giving you the whole story. So I realized there was this spiritual attack happening. And, you know, so like praying, like breaking things off me, all this stuff. There's a whole backstory to all that because of the place I was in. I knew there was spiritual warfare, things like that going on, especially because now I stepped into this space of writing this book that I know was Holy Spirit led in the book and things. And so, like I said, then at the end of the year, fully hearing from the Lord what he wanted me to do, stepping into that. He gave me the name for the club, told me what it was supposed to look like, and then going into that in 2024. And then 2024, I was like circling like around like the same weight and still not losing weight. And it wasn't until like towards the end of 2024 that like I had gained some weight. And I was just like, what's going on? Like, why am I gaining weight? I'm not really doing anything. I'm not like overeating. I know like I'm not emotionally eating, like the Lord, you know, broke that off me. I'm not dealing with like sugar addiction anymore. Like, what is going on? And I'm still thinking like it's a spiritual thing, you know, so like just praying and coming against the enemy and all this stuff. But it wasn't like changing. And it wasn't until this year, 2025, that I started gaining like more. And I'm like, what is going on? And I had gained like another 10 pounds. And I was, you know, just still continuing like to teach the things in Whole and Holy Girls Club, teaching the stuff on social media, you know, invite the Lord into your weight loss journey. These are the 7 habits that he gave me that were to do, blah, blah, blah. And I had started gaining weight. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And like originally, like I said, it was just the 10 pounds. Like I was sitting at the same weight for almost 2 years, 2023 and 2024. And it was towards the end of 2024 that I started gaining. And then 2025, it seemed like it was coming more and faster. And I haven't gained all the weight back. So let me just say that. But I was just like what is going on? And one of the things that the Lord was showing me, because I was starting to sit with him, like, Lord, like, how am I going to be out here doing this? And first of all, I wasn't losing weight. And then he had to get me right with that. And just like, but I just told you to be obedient. Don't worry about that, right? Just be obedient. Because I was like, how am I going to be out here teaching this stuff and I'm not even losing weight? Like, nobody's going to listen to me. And he's just like, but this is what I told you to do. And so he called the women and they came, even without me losing the weight. But with me gaining, I'm like, okay, because that was stressing me out. That was kind of stressful. I had to let that go and release it. And thankfully, like, he was still showing me that my obedience mattered more than the weight loss. But when I was gaining, like I said, I was just like, coming against the enemy, all this stuff. But then earlier this year, and it may have been at the end of last year, I believe it was earlier this year, he was like, it's not the enemy. This is you. This is you. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And I'll be honest, like, even like as like in the beginning, it was the enemy. But he was saying, like, now, like, no, I already took care of that. That was over. This is you. Like, the hold up in the stall and my weight was the enemy, but the gaining was me. And one of the things, like, the enemy will let us continue to pray and try to, come against him, blah, 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 when it's not him, because then that keeps us right where we are. Because if I continue to pray against the enemy and it's not the enemy, well, I'm never going to go to the Lord and say, okay, Lord, well, what am I doing? What's wrong? What's the problem here? Right? So he'll let us continue to pray and do all this stuff against him when it's not him, so we can stay stuck in bondage. And that's what it was. And I finally went to the Lord, like, Lord, what is going on? And he was like, that you already took care of. That's been over. This is you. This is you. And so there was like a multiple things that was happening. And I don't know, that's just what I wanted to share with you. Like, one of the things was, at first, it was the pressure and the weight of, like I said, being a weight loss coach who's still on a weight loss journey and being like in the forefront, doing this and telling people, like, hey, do these things, do this weight loss with the Lord, invite him in. He's going to heal your heart. You're going to break the cycles, all the things. And, well, the reason I wasn't coming before to share, like, publicly like this, was because I first was like, I don't want people to think that this doesn't work. I don't want people to think it doesn't work. And I'm like, I can't share. Like, I can't tell anyone that I've gained 10 pounds when I'm out here helping other women lose weight, and they're losing weight. They're healing their hearts. They're breaking free. And I'm gaining weight. And I'm like, I can't share that. And so they had this space to come and share with me and coach them through these things. But who am I sharing with? Like, who do I have? And that's one of the things I think is a challenge as a leader. And this wasn't it, there's more. But one of the things that's a challenge as a leader is that we know our leaders, like, will go through things. None of us are perfect. But they have to have other leaders, accountability, and things, people they can share with. And you can't always share everything with the people that you're called to lead. Not everything. but not having anyone that, and I did share, with a couple of people that held me up in prayer, things like that. But I still, like, I wanted to share with everyone because, like I said, like, I've shared my gains before in my journey, and I'm okay with sharing because I'm not perfect. But my thing was like, but how can I share? Because if I share that I'm telling everyone, do this weight loss journey with the Lord, and then I'm over here gaining, like, I don't want it to look like this doesn't work or like the Lord doesn't work when He does. And so, like, it kept me, like, in this, like, inner struggle, in this battle of wanting to share, wanting to be in integrity, but at the same time, not wanting other people to lose hope in the Lord or to give God a bad name or whatever. And the Lord was like, I never asked you to do that for me. I never asked you, like, the Lord didn't ask me to, make His name, like, make Him look good or whatever. He can do that on His own. And He, like, really just had to speak to my heart and let me know that it's okay because you're still healing too. You're still in process too. And that was the thing, like, He had to remind me that, yes, I'm on the forefront of this mission and this movement of weight loss with God and inviting Him in and allowing Holy Spirit to lead. And yes, I have broken free from the emotional eating and broken free from the sugar addiction, but I'm still in process. And it's one of these things where, like, you break free here, and so you're like, I'm good now. But He's like, no, there's some stuff up here we got to deal with too. And that's where I was. And so I was just, and what was happening is that I was going along this weight loss journey. And like I said, I was like, what's going on? Why am I, gaining weight? What's going on here? And so a part of it, what was happening in the beginning was that one of the things that I share is seeking God first. Like waking up in the morning, spending the time with Him. And that is really what equips you and strengthens you for the day ahead to, not give in to all the things, not give in to the works of the flesh and the gluttony and the emotional eating. It's the thing that really strengthens you. And so one of the things is that I had gotten away from that. I stopped doing it. The very thing I teach is like that is the foundation of this, I was no longer doing. Because now that I felt like I was doing this business and helping other people for God, I was no longer doing this for myself with God. Because it was like I wake up and, like, there's a million things I need to do. And I would feel like I needed to jump into those things. And I hate to say this, but it was almost like I didn't have time for God. And that's not true. Like, we know that's not true. But it was like, I got to spend time with you later. I got to get this done. Like, that thing was more important to Him. Like, the very business that He gave me was more important than Him. And, like, if someone else was saying that, like, God blessed them with a job or blessed them with a car or whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like you start idolizing the gift and the thing and forget about the giver of the gift. And that's what was happening for me. And so I started struggling with my weight because I was no longer spending that time with him in the morning so that he could strengthen me. And it took me so long to realize that that was going on. And there was something else. I'll get to that too. But that was like the main thing that was happening. And I didn't realize it was connected, which is the funniest thing because I say it all the time. And it's not like I thought I was exempt from it, but I think it's one of those things where somehow I moved out of doing it in his strength and started trying to do it in my own again. Like, oh, I can spend time with him later. Like, I'm good now. Like, you know, I'm not emotional eating. I'm not like addicted to the sweets. Like, I'm good. Like, I can do this. Like, let me help these other people. Like, no, because there's a whole slew of stuff over here that God hasn't worked out yet. But me not knowing that we're headed over here to this stuff. Like, okay, I'm good now. I got this. Like, and it took me so long, like, to realize that. And I just kept like pushing him to the side. I'll do it later. And then of course like later in the day wouldn't happen. Or like it'll just be like 5 minutes. And the whole time like trying to spend time with him, I'm distracted. My mind's on 20 million other things. And so I was just going through that and just continuing for months, month after month. That's why the weight kept coming on slowly. And then one thing, like I said, that's like a foundational thing. And it's like once the enemy could get me away from spending the time with the Lord, which is what held it all together, all the other habits started falling off. And next thing I know, I'm barely doing anything but drinking some water. And so that led then to this other issue where now I also started something else that added more into my schedule besides the business. So now I have even more things to do in, you know, same amount of time, but more things to do. And thinking I don't have time because I got these deadlines now and I got to get this stuff done. So I don't have time to spend time with the Lord, because if I spend time with him, then that's going to be less time I have to do all these other things. These are just, you know, the lies of the enemy and things. And I know this, right? And I would recognize these things and kind of coach myself and talk to the Lord through them. But it was still going on. And I started realizing that as I was going along, I was no longer eating mindfully either. And I found myself to where I would just start eating. I would just be like eating. And I'm like, I'm not even hungry. Why am I eating right now? Because that's mindful eating. That's another one of the habits in the club. And I was mindful. I was aware. I'm like, why am I doing this? But I was still doing it. I was still eating. But I'm like, why am I eating right now? I'm not even hungry. And I'll just be like, I don't know. And then the next day, I'd be like, why am I eating this right now? I'm not even hungry. I don't know. And I just kept going and never taking the time to sit with the Lord to seek him about what was going on. And then it was finally after I gained more weight, after the second 10 pounds, that I was like, Lord, what is going on? And I sat with him and I was like, you know, crying and like, I can't, what is this? Like, how am I out here like helping people lose weight and I'm over here like gaining? Like, what is going on with me, God? Like, this is not okay. And never mind, right? The enemy then will start with the shame and the guilt and the embarrassment. And like, how can I tell people that lose weight with God? Like, you're gonna be out of these cycles. You're gonna do all these things, and then I'm over here gaining again. And the thing is, like, it does work. But just like he was telling me before, because I'm healing from other things now, and I'm still in my process, but there's other stuff going on now. And yes, I'm out of the cycle of the emotional eating, of the sugar addiction, but there's some other things here. And so I had to make space to take the time to sit with him about what it was. And what he was showing me is that I started eating mindlessly and eating when I wasn't hungry as a way to procrastinate. Because this new thing that I had taken on was something that added this pressure of perfectionism, where I felt like I had to do it perfectly. And so because I didn't want to fail, because I didn't want to not do it perfectly, I was procrastinating on doing it. And one way for me to procrastinate was to eat. Because if I was eating, then I couldn't do that thing. And so I don't want to start doing this right now because I don't want to have to think about it. I don't want to have to think about doing it perfectly. So let me go ahead and grab something to eat because then I know I can't do it. And so I would be eating, watching my little movies on Prime, little Hallmark type movies, just to distract myself, just to procrastinate. And so he started showing me that. And so then I had to sit with him about, okay, so why am I procrastinating in this way? And that's when he was showing me it was this perfectionism and this need to people please, really, through that, which is something that, like, I've dealt with most of my life, and I've talked about it before, but a lot of the emotional eating, sugar addiction, all those things underneath that was people pleasing. And this, me feeling like I have to do that perfectly, was still kind of rooted in that people pleasing. And that's the thing, like, as he's pulling up and, cutting off these roots and these things that are keeping you stuck, as he's breaking these other cycles, sometimes there's other things underneath. And that's what this was for me. And so I had to do that heart work with him, the mind renewal. And I had to get delivered as well from this. And he was just, that's what it was. That's what was going on with me. And so I was able to kind of process that with him and go through that to where I got to this point that I'm not operating in perfectionism in that area anymore. Like, I'm really at this point where I'm like, not that I don't care, because I do care, right? Because we still want to have excellence, but not perfectionism. But I'm also just like, it's okay if it's not perfect. Just do the best you can in the season that you're in, right where you are. You don't have to stress yourself out trying to be perfect, trying to be the best or whatever. It's okay. And I really had to allow him to heal my heart in that area. And I will say that ever since I've done that with him, I don't do it anymore. I don't eat as a distraction anymore. And I also had to allow him to continue to heal my heart around being this leader in this space and knowing that I'm still going to mess up. I'm still, going to make mistakes, not do things perfectly. And that has to be okay. And if someone doesn't want to follow or doesn't want to like or doesn't want to whatever, because I'm still in process too, that has to be okay. And like I said, one of my biggest things too was that I don't want people to fall back in the ways of this world, thinking that doing this with God doesn't work, because it does. Like, he is so good. He's so good. And he healed me from those other things. That's why I know it works. But it doesn't mean that there's not other things to be healed from. And I know, like I said, like, so now the procrastination thing's broken off, so I can move forward in that, and I'm delivered from that. And I've been losing the weight since then. But I also have to be okay with that sometimes, like I still am going to have my struggles too, and my challenges, even while helping everyone else. And it doesn't mean I'm not qualified. It doesn't mean I'm not anointed to do it, because I am. It just means that I'm still healing too, and I'm still in process too. And I have to be okay with that. And those who are supposed to do this with me, who are supposed to be in the club with me, will be there. Because he called them there. Not because I'm so great, but because he is. And one of the very things that people have told me is that the reason that they even come into the club and allow me to be their coach is because they know that I get what they're going through, because I've been through it and am going through it. And so the enemy wants to use the very thing that attracted people to come into my space in the first place is the thing that has made me like ashamed or feeling guilty or embarrassed about. But I had to come on here and share, because as someone who wants to be integrous, like, I can't not share. And I can't allow the enemy to try to keep me silent and keep me running and hiding and operating out of integrity, or operating from this place of, because then he'll start with the imposter syndrome and all that. And I also had to share because there may be a time in your journey where you've lost 80 pounds and you think you're good and you've got this and you're going, and the next thing you know, you're gaining weight again. And you're like, wait a minute, why am I here again? But the difference is you're not yo-yo dieting. You're not on the diet merry-go-round, because I'm still not doing any diets. It's just that, hold on, there may be something else the Lord needs to heal here. So let me sit with him and let him break that up. So I didn't want to do another video until I shared this, because like it has been on my heart for like months, and I'm like, how do I share this? How do I come forth? And like I said, it's not even so much about me gaining the weight, but just because I don't want people to lose faith because of my failure, because of my fall, right? Because of my process. I don't want people to lose faith in God and that he is a healer, because he's still healing me. He's still working. And the weight will come up. And I do believe it will still be supernaturally that it will come off, because I'm still not dieting. And what's so amazing is that once I started spending time with him again, and started spending time with him in the mornings again, the weight just started coming off. And I wasn't doing anything differently. I mean, I wasn't, eating as a distraction, those things. And I started focusing on my journey again while I'm helping others, and not just helping others and not, helping myself with the Lord. But as I started spending time with him again, the weight started coming off. And it's just the coolest thing, like, to see. And it does just confirm, like, wow, this does work. Of course. But to just know that, like, as I'm spending time with him and I don't struggle through the day, I don't want to turn to food for, even distractions or things like that. But just like I'm spending time with him and then the weight's coming off. And I'm not really doing anything differently. But I've also noticed that through time with him, like, my taste buds have changed. My, I guess, just desire for food has also changed. Besides, like, the other things that, he already, like, healed me from and delivered me from. But I see, like, how he continues to work in this process of me, taking care of his temple and nourishing my body and really, like, supping on his word and, like, truly getting filled by that. And yeah, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. And so, yeah, just trust him. You don't have to trust me, but trust him with the journey and with what he's doing in and through you in this journey, because he's gonna continue to work. But if you remember, like, nothing else, spend that time with him in the mornings. And I say in the mornings because, like, me, that's what helped me. That's what helped me. That's what equips me. That's what, putting on that spiritual armor, that's what guards my heart. That's what helps me stay in the mind of Christ. That's what helps me to abide in him, is spending that time with him first. And he's the redeemer of time. So how can I not think that if I take time with him, that he's not going to make sure that whatever time I have left is enough time to complete everything that I need to do? He will redeem the time. He will make the time. So it is the next day, and there was just a couple things I wanted to mention that I forgot to bring up when I was going through the video, and I just wanted to mention them because I feel like they're important, just in case anyone else goes through this later, and just also, just more of the story and what was going on. But one of the things when I was talking about, just the pressure I was feeling and trying to be perfect as, someone that's a leader and a coach in this space. And then not only, like, my weight stalling for like almost 2 years, but then starting to gain, is that I started self-sabotaging. And that was something that the Lord freed me from when he reminded me that I was still going through my healing process too. And so it's okay. Like, I don't have to be perfect. Well, period. I don't have to be perfect, but that I'm still healing too. And so that was something, because I was self-sabotaging because of all the pressure and things like that. And so he freed me from that as I was going through this with him. And then the other thing was, when I first started this journey, I knew, like, I was doing calories in versus calories out, tracking my calories, and I knew that was only temporary. It wasn't something I was going to be doing forever, but it was something that I felt led to do in the beginning because I needed to really see like what is a normal portion, like what's a normal serving size, really understanding not how to not stuff myself, and that I really am full way before I get to this point of stuffing myself, right? And so that was a part of my process with changing my relationship with food when I first started this and myself. And so one of the things though was that I knew I wasn't supposed to track anymore, that the Lord was told me that that time was over. But the thing was, I never went to him for the next instructions. And when I was talking about just kind of going in my own strength and doing my own thing, so I was very aware still of, servings, and I still am, things like that. But I also never went to the Lord because remember, I wasn't seeking him. I never went to him to say, Lord, what are my next instructions for this next leg of this race, for this next season, to continue this weight loss journey? Because I still have over 100 pounds to lose, right? Even with the 80 pounds down. So I never went and said, what are my next instructions? And so as I've been seeking God about, going back to seeking God, then I realized like, wait, I didn't ask for my own instructions. I'm telling everybody else to get theirs, and I didn't get my new ones because I had my old ones, but those weren't relevant anymore. And I never got the new ones. And so that's something else I want you to realize too, is that the instructions you have to start may not be the ones you have to keep going all the way to your goal. And to make sure, obviously, that you keep seeking him and spending that time with him every day, but also checking in to get the instructions. When you see that, wait, it seems like the grace is lifted off of these instructions I was doing, and I'm really not losing weight anymore. Like, Lord, what am I supposed to be doing now in this season? And so that was something else that I had to do, and to go back to him to get. And I wanted to make sure I shared that with you. And I'm looking at my notes because I wrote down what I forgot to say so I don't forget. The other thing was that I just want to remind you that in the challenges, in all the things, it's going to seem at those times, especially like I was gaining weight, that, the enemy or your whatever will start bringing up, well, maybe you should do this to lose weight. Maybe you should, try this world's way. Maybe you should try this quick fix, whatever. And praise God, I never fell into any of those things. But I'm not going to say the thought didn't pop in my head, right? That, oh man, I just gained this 10 pounds. What can I do to get it off really quick? And so the enemy's going to try to bring those things back up because he wants you to go back in bondage. He wants you to go back to the world's way, which doesn't heal your heart, heal your mind, heal the trauma, heal the things, remove the labels that aren't from the Lord. And so just know that when you're in these times where it may seem like your weight's plateauing or weight comes back on, that those quick fixes, the things of the world, are going to start being highlighted and start looking really good. But we're not slaves to those things anymore. We allow the Lord to lead. And so that was where I fell too. Not that I didn't fall into the quick fixes in the world thing, but I never went to the Lord to say, Lord, what am I supposed to be doing right now? I kept asking him what was going on, but I never asked him what were the instructions to continue to lose. So just be mindful of that the enemy will try to pull you back into the world's way, the restrictions and rules and bondage. But you have a better way. You have a better way. So just continue to stick with that. And the other thing too is that just like I did, because you've gone through this process with him, when you do come up to these times where it's challenging, where the weight's not coming off, or where you notice you're gaining, you're going to recognize this time that something's happening and like, hold on, because I know I've been doing this with the Lord. I know I'm not, stuck in the yo-yo dieting, things like that. So something else must be going on. And so you'll be able to recognize it a lot sooner than you did in the past. Because in the past, when I started struggling, I would have gained all 80 pounds back probably in less than 6 months, because I've done that before. I had lost 75 pounds before in like 6 months, and life started lifing, and I gained it all back, I think, in like 3. So the fact that it has now been 3 years and I have not gained anywhere near 80 pounds, that's huge. So you will recognize what's happening a lot sooner. It's not the same as it was before with the yo-yo dieting and the diet merry-go-round and things. You're going to recognize it. You're going to be able to go back to the Lord, and you're not going to gain all that weight back. And I want you to be rest assured in that this time is different. This time is different. And you're going to be able to fight back. You're equipped with the tools of the Lord. You're equipped with Him, with Holy Spirit, His power, His voice, His instruction, His leading. And so you will not, even if there's fluctuations, even if there's a stall, even if you gain 10 and 20 plus pounds, you will not gain all the weight back and be in the same cycle like you were before, because you're different, because you've allowed the Lord to heal you. You've allowed Him to heal you of those things that put you in those bondage and that cycles in the first place. And so it may be, like I was saying, that now there's just something else to allow Him to heal and to work with Him through. So I just wanted to make sure I came back and said those things that I forgot to mention before about the self-sabotage and not getting the instructions from the Lord, and also just encouraging you that, you won't gain it all back, just like I didn't. And it was a lot slower process of gaining it when I did gain. But I just wanted to make sure to mention that. All right, back to the video. And so, of course, I have some scripture I want to read. So the first one is John 15, 4 through 5. And I say this one all the time because of this very reason. But it says, John 15, 4 through 5, abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. Without Him, we can do nothing. Like, we won't have the strength. We won't have the ability. We won't have what it takes to resist the temptation. Apart from Him, we won't be able to have the heart healing and the mind renewal apart from Him. And that's what gets us tripped up. That's what got me tripped up. Let me speak for myself. That's what got me tripped up, trying to do this in my own strength and not thinking that I was. I didn't think I was, but I was. Like, I realized it's like, people like to use the analogy like, your cell phone, and you're charging the battery and you're plugged into the source, which is the Lord, right? And you're getting filled up. And then you unplug the phone and the battery lasts for a while. But after a while, it starts being drained and then it runs out, and it has to be recharged. And if it doesn't get recharged, the battery in the phone dies. And that's the same thing. Like, I thought I was still running on the charge from before, but I was running on fumes, which is nothing. No gas, no battery life. And so we have to stay in Him to continue to be recharged and continue to be strengthened and continue to be renewed and healed. And then He says, like, apart from Him, we can do nothing. And apart from Him, we cannot bear fruit. And what's that fruit, Lord? Galatians 5:22 through 23. One of which is self-control. And so why do we think we can have self-control in our own strength? He says, apart from Him, we can do nothing. So why do we think that we can have lasting self-control without Him? Why do we think we can have healing without Him? Healing from whatever the things are in the past without Him. Why do we think we can have successful businesses without Him and helping others without Him? Right? The other scripture I want to read, 1 Corinthians 9:27. First Corinthians 9:27. But I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. And that's how I have to lead. And it's not that I just discipline my body outside of the Lord. It's with His strength that I discipline my body. And Paul, he's talking about self-denial, period. Not like just with eating and things like that, but with sexual immorality, stuff like that. But this is the verse before that where he's talking about pressing towards that prize, that eternal prize. And how can I share with you, teach with you, if I myself am not doing the work and not disciplining my body and doing what it is that the Lord has for me to do too? Like, I can't do that. And I knew that, and that was a part of what the enemy was using. But like I said, the weight's going back off, spending time with the Lord again. But I wanted to come and go ahead and share this even before I got all the weight back off, because I didn't want to share another video without sharing this with you and sharing my heart and just letting you know, like, I'm still in process too. Pray for me too. As I pray for you, pray for me too in this journey. Because even though, like, I'm over this, that doesn't mean that there's not anything else that may come up. And I also want to encourage you too, to just keep moving forward with Him, because there may be times, and I pray there's not, but there may be times later down the line where you gain some weight back and you're wondering what's going on and not realizing that, oh wait, there's some other area that the Lord needs to heal. And I want you to know, and part of me sharing this is for you to know that that is normal. And I hate to use that word normal, but I can't think of another word. But the thing is, if I come here and don't share that this is what's going on with me and that this is what's happening, then you'll think that when you gain weight later down the line, that something's wrong with you. And that what's wrong with you? Why are you not doing this right? Then the shame, then the guilt for you. And so I hope that me coming here, sharing this, is to let you know that if that does happen down the line, that you remember this, and to know that nothing's wrong with you. That this is just still a part of the process, because you're still in process. And like the Lord was saying with me, I'm still healing too. And so it's just a part of your healing process, and that you're still healing too. And no, you won't have to go back to those other things that he freed you from, because you are free, unless you voluntarily go back and put yourself back in bondage. But you're free. But there may be some other things that he's still working in your heart and healing you from. And so remember this. When those things might come up, don't let the enemy use that as a way to make you think that something's wrong with you and that's not okay. Like, no, wait, I remember Malika was going through this too, and she had gained. And so there was something else the Lord had to work with her through and heal as a part of her process. So know that it's normal, whatever normal is supposed to look like. It's a normal part of the process, because it's still not, you're not circling. I'm not circling still. I'm not on the diet merry-go-round. I'm not yo-yo dieting. That stuff's all behind me. It's one of those things where, and I've used this analogy before, where it looks like you're circling, but when you look from a different perspective, from the top it looks like you're circling, but from the side you're actually ascending, but you're going around and up. So anyway, I don't know if that made sense. I'm rambling at this point. I think we're done. I think we're done. I believe I said all that was I needed to say. And so again, just pray for me as I pray for you. Keep me lifted in the journey. Pray for your leaders, because your leaders are going through things that you'll never know. They are going through things that they won't ever voice, and they may voice it to others and have accountability. But this is also one of those things as leaders that we have to be okay knowing that our leaders are human too, and they're going through things. That's another discussion for another day. We'll talk about that some other time. But pray for your leaders too. All right. All right. That's all I wanted to talk to you about. And I will talk to you later.